Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Creaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Aucknacloy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
Welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast. Please remember to give the page a like, follow, subscribe, share on all the platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Spotify and YouTube. It really does help to keep the podcast coming. So look, we're on episode number 20 today. Bit of a different feel to it, different vibe. Decided to bring on our brother Ryan Creaney here. We're doing it in the jiu-jitsu gym that we train in regularly. So this is Kiljan Lurgan gym here. Ryan, pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Ryan, look, this is our gym here. This is where we train. An excellent facility. We just moved into the last few months. Real good boost for the town of Lurgan.
This is it. Some setup. Yourself and Kevin have really went the extra mile. Put the place together, and it's a credit to us. Brilliant facility. Love being here. Love being a part of it. And it's great for the town of Lurgan, as you say.
It is indeed. Well, look, you said that Kevin, our brother, he's a big driving factor behind the gym, looking after kids' classes and everything else. He does all the work he did to sort of get the gym up and going here as well. But and myself and Kevin came through. We sort of came through the belt ranks together, right the whole way up, blue, white, blue, all the way up to black, done together. Now you've reached purple. You have a jiu-jitsu journey of your own. Me and you started training together actually before Kevin even did start. So you want to start to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I actually did. You sent me a text, wasn't it? Back about 2016. Still up in university. You sent me a text saying, you're into combat sports, UFC, the likes. Do you fancy actually starting this? It was over in the Brownlow Rec, as it was at the time, one night a week on a Friday.
That's right.
So I went over, didn't know what to expect at all, but instantly kind of, enjoyed it. Being involved in the competitive sort of side of it. So the progression at the start was just minimal. You were once a week, just learning the odd technique, sort of getting there slowly but surely. Like the people advancing now, it's just night and day. Within 6 months, they're relatively good. It took maybe a year to get anywhere. In the time sort of we had once a week. But kept plugging away. Maybe myself to blame that I'm not black belt now. Probably should be in terms of the time. But definitely 29 years of age as purple. I'm not gonna say no to that. Definitely happy with
things like university and work and stuff got in your way a lot in the first few years.
Yeah, drinking in the Holy Lands maybe. Yeah, we bit of that. That's but everyone does it, I suppose, at that age. But it was definitely the fact that I'm purple at 29. Something I'm very, very proud of. It's a skill that I'd recommend to anyone for sure. So it was great journey. Did my first competition maybe about a year in. We went down to Dublin, if you remember.
That's right, the Irish Open, yeah.
At white belt, so that was good experience. Got my first win at that point, and then really gets the bug, for competing and stuff. Like to compete more, to be honest with you. Like to throw myself into that a wee bit more. Struggle a wee bit with nerves, I think that's natural. Something I'm still sort of trying to cope with, but definitely I would recommend that for sure.
There's a real sort of nervous energy and tension when it comes to the competition matches, but usually find that if you've maybe more than one match on a day, the nerves disappear after the first one, and you can sort of start motoring a lot better in the second and third fight if you get one.
Yeah, big time. It's like the first one, it's all that negative and bad energy you get out, and then the second one, it's you're ready to go almost. You know what I mean? You're only sort of ready to go then. So maybe like the likes of my style, even if you wanted to even talk about that, it's like I've always been a big fan of Khabib, Nurmagomedov, Khabib, or any of those Dagestani wrestlers. So that's just the style to go for. Like to sort of get my fitness involved, weaponising a wee bit of that, getting people tired, my opponents tired, and just bringing them into deep waters kind of thing, So that's, if you watch a Khabib fight, you're probably, that's what I'd go for.
Yeah, no, definitely. Suppose the Inside Game podcast here is mainly, it's primarily Gaelic football based. So we'll move into that side of things. We'll talk about Armagh Tyrone match over the weekend, and we'll look ahead to Armagh Fermanagh and other games maybe in the Ulster Championship coming up too. But before we do that, Ryan, obviously we talk a lot about Gaelic football. New rules is still a topic of discussion, and you would have preferred to say you were happy enough with the way the game was before, going against the grain probably, in terms of the media narrative and all that beforehand.
No, I was. I just thought it was a really tactical, smart game. The way it was. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. But if I even think back to a game, Armagh v Monaghan 2023, that was a chess match, like from start to finish. I think it ended 14-all after extra time. But it was a chess match, very little given away. For even an obscure game like that, I thought it was just like brilliant. We went to a McKenna Cup game in 24. Remember, Armagh v Derry, and for a McKenna Cup game, it was really, really well organised and put together, and I liked the game the way it was back then. To me now, it's just it can get into like a cricket score and a bit ridiculous, but I know for the average fan, it's more exciting. To me, excitement's not really important. Like the two teams that are playing, it's for them. It doesn't matter if a neutral finds it exciting or not. That's my perception. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the winner and the loser, that's who it's important for. The neutral being entertained is not for me important.
Well, I heard a terminology during the week. Someone said it's almost like, you mentioned cricket, it's almost like we'll take our turn and we'll rack up our score, and then we'll switch over, and then you'll bat now, and when we'll bowl.
Yeah, no,
and we'll try to catch you. So the new rules, you've seen it particularly with the way the weather is. One team puts up a massive score, then the other team does the exact same thing in the second half, and that didn't seem to be as big an issue, from 2024 backwards.
No, it didn't. So funny you say that. So I went to the up the athletic grounds there for the Tyrone game. Watch match with Luke. Luke's getting into Gaelic more so now. He's big, huge Liverpool fan, soccer fan. Knows soccer inside out, but he's getting into Gaelic more so now. And he says this is very sort of momentum based, isn't it? This, with the new rules, and that's what he picked up on. And he says that's 100% what it is these days. You know what I mean? It's the kick out and piggery, as McGeaney went on about. But you were mentioning the National League. It was just gale force winds. One team would have it for a while. In the first half, they'd rack up a lead, and then the next half, it was just the reverse. Fortunately, Armagh, of course, they fell short a few of those games. Maybe the Roscommon one in particular, they fell short.
Mayo.
Yeah, but these wins. So no, definitely. As a big proponent of the new rules, the old rules, should I say? Sorry. I was back then, and I think that really probably contributed to Armagh winning the All Ireland. Thought they mastered the old rules. We'll probably get into that later, but
Yeah. You're a fan of Rian O'Neill. Ryan, we've had discussions before about him. Look, he's unfortunately not involved with things currently. He is playing for Crossmaglen. He played against Harps in the first league outing. By all reports, he's still looking fairly sharp. And look, if the fella doesn't want to play for Armagh, then no problem at all. The county will play on without him. But that aside, you're a fan of him in terms of how he plays. You would rank him up there as one of the very, very best in Ireland.
Yeah, the best for me.
Best.
Yeah, I do. I think he's the best player in Ireland. For me, ever. Do you know what I mean? Somebody might get laughed out of the room for saying that. I just think I think he's phenomenal. To be honest, I think he's such a huge miss for this team.
Yeah.
Just the X factor he brings, the scores, the defensive work rate. You'll remember back to game 2023 against Cavan, Breffni Park. Cavan was straight through for goal. He dove, cleared off the line, put out for 45.
That's right. Yeah.
Against Kerry in 24, hoof into the box, last sort of attack of the game for Kerry. Caught it. and then he made a, and then maybe off of that, he assisted Turbo.
That's right, the big long pass over
Big
the top.
long kick. So he's got, for me, he's got it all. He's got, the defensive, he doesn't mind getting stuck in. He's got the scores. He's just he's very, very well rounded as a player in general. And for me, he's the best in Ireland. I do love him as a player.
So the people obviously is going to say it's Clifford. That's the talk, no matter where you listen.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you square away that to say that you would put Rian O'Neill above Clifford then?
So I know it's like David Clifford's got the accolades, doesn't he? He's like all the whatever awards he's got, and his peers, and his, voted player of the year and all the rest. I totally understand that, and he's undeniable. He's brilliant. I just think he's a specialist in one area of the game, is what I see. The analogy I would use, it's like if you say who's the best fighter in the world, somebody might say Tyson Fury, but for me it's maybe the UFC heavyweight champion of the world, because they're more well-rounded. It's a full skill set. He's a specialist in one area of the game. It's not taking away anything from him. I just think Rian O'Neill has more to his game, does more things, and I think overall he's a better player. It's like, when we talk about brilliant players or good players, one of my favourites was Andy Mallon, cornerback, brilliant. But no one's going to ever have him in the conversation. Our mum's Francie Bellew, because they're defenders. Do you know what I mean? A good goalie's never going to get the same plaudits, but it's because Clifford obviously scores the most, and that's deemed wins games. That's who we're going to obviously go with. But I know for me it's Rian O'Neill all day. Just love him to be back in the side again. Yeah,
well, hopefully we'll see him sooner rather than later.
Hopefully.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
If we look at Armagh Tyrone then, just passed over the weekend, at the time we're recording. Score finished 117 to 116. It was not 13 each after full time, which is quite low scoring these days. Probably, for my money, the conditions played a part in that, where guys were maybe slipping a bit more, maybe control. They weren't in control as much. There was a lot of turnovers. Personnel then for Armagh, the likes of Joe McElroy returned after being injured for a few weeks. Rory Grugan came back after heading away to France and then picking up an Achilles injury. So he's come back in, albeit he only played a few minutes. The kickouts on the day, Armagh won 68% of their own kickouts, which is right up there with what they were doing in the league. They won 72% of kickouts throughout the entirety of the league, and it was a stat that got noticed and talked about how it should help them go a lot going forward. And something that obviously they got undone by a lot against Kerry last year was the kickouts over that sort of infamous 15-minute spell. And for me, it was the character shown in extra time when they were down to 14 men that probably really stood to them and getting that result against Tyrone over the line. So what was your views on, well, coming in, that you felt confident enough, Ryan, coming in?
Yeah, I did. So if I actually bring it back to last year's game, I was talking in here to Shane Russell, good Argyll man, but he's Armagh supporter. Talking to him, and I was really apprehensive. We just won the All-Ireland, and I was like, who on earth, like, the worst team you could probably play at this time, Tyrone, because they'd love to beat you when you're All-Ireland champions. And I needed to be well up for it. I was really apprehensive. So I went to him, says, like, Shane, what do you think for this game and stuff? And he's all, no, I really think we'll do it. So give me a bit of confidence. We've obviously won last minute in the kind of the Grugan turbo free kick situation after the hooter. Brilliant. So as a tradition, went back to him this year. I said, Shane, what do you think this year? And he says, no, same as last year, I think we'll win. So that gave me confidence going in. But when I looked at the two league forms, it was, both were poor, you would say, in terms of results and where both would have wanted to be. But it was just the calibre of teams, obviously, Tyrone were playing. They were tipped to go up out of Division 2, and they'd only beat Offaly and Cavan. And the performance against Offaly, I remember I watched the full first half, and I was like, Offaly were actually in the game, competitive. It was only like 2 points in it, maybe at half time, and Offaly had were well in the game, and they were getting destroyed by most teams. and I was like, this isn't really a great. They're not in a good place, this Tyrone team at all. Now Armagh weren't in a great place either.
Yeah.
But it's just the way the league panned out for Tyrone, and then the way it finished for Armagh, just with the comeback against Dublin. It's almost as if that run from Connolly and the blast into the net, it just like all the frustration seemed to flood out for Armagh.
Yeah.
And then the Kerry performance, they were good that day, bar the slow start. So confident going in. Now, if you'd have asked me how I was feeling midway through the game, I'd have probably said, "Oh God, I don't know now."
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a roller coaster of a game, and it started off obviously great start, but then when Tyrone started to come back into it, you were thinking it was a coin toss at that point, or maybe McElhome's chance.
Yeah.
McElhone and then Morgan's free kick at the end and stuff. We were kind of lucky, but I thought I was confident. We thought we were going to do it, and obviously ultimately we did do it. It was skin of our teeth, but still.
Well, Oisin O'Neill spoke about the tension in the ground beforehand. He said he could feel it in the warm up. So speaking to you earlier today, actually, you said that you knew what he meant. You could feel it yourself.
Yeah, I could 100% feel it. It was like there was a Tyrone wee cohort behind us, and they weren't expecting very much. They weren't expecting very much. The mood. We were talking before the game. They were just like, we'll see how it goes, kind of job. And then as the game went on, the tension built. They got more confident, but I started to think just a wee bit deeper. It's just the counties have been from dating back to 2003. The rivalry is just so fierce. It's like none of the two sides want to give anything away, and the concept of losing the other is just too big of a deal. And that I did think played a part, in the game. The nerves, and you were mentioning the conditions and stuff too. But I could feel the tension. You could feel it. You could cut it with a knife, like at times. Really. It definitely was for sure,
The supporters now seem to. There's almost like a mutual respect now between the supporters. Maybe one that didn't exist like in the early noughties. It was probably a lot fiercer back then, but I think that put a lot of respect into both fans for each other and what they were both doing at the time. And I feel, for me, certainly, I have a lot of respect and a lot of like and admiration for Tyrone fans now, and I can speak away to them freely. You just remind me really of Armagh people, and you sort of get that sense yourself.
Yeah, 100%. They're likable people. They're really big into the Gaelic, and I was talking to a lad. His club was Ergo Kieran behind us. Really sound fella. Just they love their Gaelic. They're big into it. And it's kind of a wee bit surprising actually that they've lost their way in the sense that the mood in the camp seems a bit off because they are such a fanatical county. Mm-hmm. It must just be a results thing. Since they've won the All Ireland 2021, they've been patchy.
Flattered to see really since.
And I think that's kind of the mood has dampened in the camp as it would. You only really enjoy any sport when you're winning. But yeah, that is the mutual respect is definitely between the two counties is you can tell it's like us in jiu-jitsu. After a good hard roll with somebody, you know what I mean? You're come out of the other end and you do have respect for that person.
Yeah.
So 100%, I listened to Alan McGinley in one of the podcasts he was on, and he was obviously talking about that 05 era, and he was just mentioning, how much he respected the two sides and what it meant and how ferocious it was, But no, 100%, an Armagh fan, even though it was a big rivalry, the two sets of fans do. They do have a lot of time for each other, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Well, look, Colin Kilpatrick was excellent. He got man of the match on RTE. BBC, who were also at the game, they gave it to Oisin O'Neill after coming on and scoring 6 points off the bench and made a massive impact. And really, if he hadn't have, it's unlikely Armagh would have won the game. Any other players stand out to you?
I was really impressed actually. It was Tomas McCormick. I thought I was really impressed with him. He obviously got the goal, which was huge. Mm-hmm. I was really impressed with him. I watched him. It was Clonard in seconds versus Annick and you could tell he was a county player. Might have been the only county player on the pitch on the day. But he was. You could just see the quality.
Stood out. He
stood out that day.
Yeah, he's playing now more in a more forward role, which couple of people I was speaking to said that's really where he has been playing, whereas previously for Armagh he was looking corner back and maybe struggling to get his place or struggling to get the sort of minutes that he's getting these days.
Because he definitely has a goal in him. He scored that goal against Antrim, remember, up in Corgan Park last year.
That's right.
Great finish. And I think he's definitely worth his place. Like, I thought he was really good. Then you've got your just consistency. You've got Ross McQuillan's always consistent. Callum O'Neill, thought he was decent.
Yeah, he had a good game.
Had a couple of good scores. Blaine Hughes,
Kieran Kelly and Greg
Kelly.
They're just the stalwarts that are constantly holding the fort.
Big time. But what I thought was the starting 15, if we can keep in this game, even be trailing slightly, and then you get Turbo and Oisin O'Neill on, then we should be fine, peel away. And it did actually look to be going that way. We're 3 up with 2 or 3 minutes left. What it didn't account for was a goal, obviously, going in.
Yeah.
Thought we would win coming in, but it didn't account for the goal. I thought we'd win by maybe 2 or 3. And that goal really sort of the cat amongst the pigeons for a wee while. But those lads particularly that I named there, they were, all brilliant. Oisin O'Neill, as well. Yeah. Class.
Mm-hmm. Well, I suppose what stood out for me and ended up being the winning of the game was Armagh's bravery in extra time, whereby McGeady said it. He says, look, there was no choice. He was asked about, you pushed up on the kickouts. They basically decided that they were going to commit an extra man into shutting off the Tyrone short kickout. They weren't giving up any kickouts, and they let themselves short a player at the back. So if Niall Morgan had been able to get a long kick up over the top, they could have been in trouble. But they had to take that chance. McGeady said that no choice. So there was a real bravery there, and it paid off for them because they were able to actually get their hands on ball in midfield and take control of the game despite being a player down. Yeah, and I thought it was the old rule of you have your man off in the normal time, and he can come back on. Yes. So I had no idea. We were 14 men, so it was even more impressive. To dig out the victory. Yeah. You know what I mean? And as you're mentioning there, the kick out and having to sort of go for it. But I think all the lessons from basically 2022 onwards have really studied this team. Going from maybe that Galway game and went to the penalty shootout right through all the games in between, the All-Ireland final. Like, they've been in tight games, and there's always that criticism they couldn't win tight games. But I don't think anyone can say that now. Yeah. Well, I suppose if we look forward a little bit now, Armagh play Fermanagh in Enniskillen. It's a fixture that was actually in the start of 2024. Armagh played Fermanagh in Enniskillen in the quarter-final of the Ulster. So it's a repeat fixture from 2 years ago in a season when we went on to win the All-Ireland. That's right. Fermanagh, obviously, the history of Fermanagh would be the 04 heartbreak and the 2008 Ulster final draw and then replay. Fermanagh were gunning for their first ever Ulster, and that's sort of a bit of history would have. But unfortunately for Fermanagh, they've just been relegated to Division 4 and they're struggling a bit. So if you're confident going into the Tyrone one, I would imagine you're confident going into this one. I am of course. Just off of leagues and where the teams are, and but as you mentioned, 2004. So you never take Fermanagh lightly. That game was just a total nightmare, like just disaster. Like, how that even could happen. That great Armagh side getting beat by Fermanagh. Brewster and Mark Little. Good team back then. Maybe better than maybe I'd have given credit for, but never take Fermanagh lightly is what I've learned. It seems a tough ground there. Seems a tough ground with the conditions and all the rest. Obviously, yes, I think I'm on paper, will beat most teams, but I've learned never to take them lightly after that 2004 experience. Yeah. Well, in Ulster, then Derry are home to Antrim and Cavan are home to Monaghan. That's coming up this weekend. Again, at the time of recording, like it would be hard enough to make a case for Antrim, travelling to Derry there, and then Cavan and Monaghan. Though that might be a bit tighter, that one. So how do you see those two games going? Yeah, Monaghan had a very poor league, didn't it? Calling a spade, like. So maybe expecting a reaction out of them. I probably would tip them actually to beat Cavan. So gonna go with that. It'll be close now, but I think I would probably give Monaghan the edge, just maybe on history and pedigree and those kinds of things,
But so I'm gonna go Monaghan not there on the same side as Derry. Did you say?
Yeah, those teams are all on the same side as each other.
But then I see ultimately Derry getting through there. So I think if Armagh are to win in Ulster, or they get that far, they'll end up facing Derry. Obviously, you've got friggin' juggernaut Donegal in between, but certainly I think ultimately you'll get Monaghan will beat Cavan, and then I think you'll get Derry out of that side. I think that's what most people are going for. What I think Monaghan will bounce back.
Well, then the weekend after, of course, Fermanagh and Armagh playing in Enniskillen, and then the winner of that will be watching closely the game the following day, which is Donegal and Down. Now, your partner, Sinead, ran, she's a Down woman, as is all her family. So, how does that make you want that game to go then?
So, obviously, they do hate Armagh, so as most Down people tend to do. But putting that aside, it's I think Down will give them a good game. I really do. It won't be Donegal won't get it all their own way. Put it that way. I think Down. I think they're a good team. They've got a good maybe starting 15. Maybe there's a good solid with 10 players in there. Murdoch is proud to pick them. Very Rian O'Neill-esque, I would say. But so I think they'll definitely have enough to harm them. Pat Haverin as well, if he has a good day. It's just where it is, I think it's Ballybuffet, isn't it?
It's in Letterkenny.
Letterkenny, so not as bad, but certainly still tough. Like, if it was in Park Esther, I would maybe even I'd be thinking Down can maybe cause, the upset. It's just where it is, but I know Donegal won't get it their own way. Yeah. Put it that way. I'm looking forward to that game, actually. It'll be good.
Well, before we wrap up here, Ryan, a couple of questions. Can or will Armagh win the Ulster? And can or will Armagh win the All-Ireland?
Yes.
Not easy answer maybe at this time of year.
I'm going to say yes and yes. Just, a rule of thumb, it's just I never go against Armagh. Do you know what I mean? I'm always positive about them. I'm optimist about them. I'll always back them. No, but it's not obviously it's a hard one to answer at this stage. But you get Rian O'Neill back, that certainly you boost your chances. I like the fact we're actually playing Donegal in a semi-final this year. I think we can.
If both teams win.
Oh yes, if I know, it is quite arrogant to say that. But if both teams win, but I'd like the fact that we would meet them there, because the finals, it's just a bit, bit more on the line, and maybe hopefully less of a nervy kind of day or whatever, So Ulster, I would definitely take an Ulster. I know that for sure. Love an Ulster. I think that's the one thing that McGeeney really he hasn't accomplished it really with Armagh at this stage. But and then once you're through Ulster, I think you can do anything at that point. Ulster is so difficult, and then the All Ireland in a way it's almost easier to win. Weirdly, just I don't know. It's just can be that way for some teams. But I think they definitely can. They'll be there. They're thereabouts come the end of the year for sure.
Well, I think the consideration amongst most is that they're top three. You've got Kerry, Donegal are counted as the top two, Armagh 3, and then probably another few teams, maybe Galway up and around that area. And after that, there's no doubt other teams then, like the likes of Mayo, Meath, Tyrone, a few others here, definitely can beat anyone on their day. Cork, a few others, but the general belief is that Armagh are up and around the top 3, and that's the case. Then it's certainly not out of the question to win one or both of those competitions. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because in 2024, we were saying if you luck and if all things are right for you, you definitely could win the All Ireland, and it did prove to be the case. So that's always going to be the way. They're top, as you say, 1, 2, or 3, and then after that, if you get luck on your day, you've definitely in with a shout. Others to watch for sure. You name Galway. I think they're a really good side. Not a team we've shared a lot with too over the years. Their inside forward lines can hurt anybody. So I think, weirdly for me, they're actually sticking out as a team that could win the All Ireland as well.
Yeah.
Then you've got obviously the front runner at the minute, Donegal, but I actually do see them potentially slipping up, maybe to a Galway. Galway seem to have beat them in the year we got the All Ireland final, so just something to watch out for sure.
Yeah, very good. Well, look, Ram, we'll wrap it up, and thanks for coming on the show. And that was episode 20, a bit of a milestone one, so glad to have you on.
No, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.